Okay, I'm gonna try this again. This is the second time I've had to do this part anyway. I didn't realize the 15-minute limit and all that on YouTube. Anyway, so I'll keep that in mind. This is at Love Clark, and we're going on from Germany and the Holy Roman Empire, from the Philadelphia Church of God. And we're going to continue with Fierce Assyrians, where we left off. Okay? Fierce Assyrians. Okay? Virtually every historian draws attention to the warlike nature of the Assyrian people. James McCabe, author of History of the World, says the Assyrians were a fierce, treacherous race, delighting in the dangers of the chase and in war. The Assyrian troops were notably among the most formidable of ancient warriors. They never kept faith when it was to their interest to break treaties, and were regarded with suspicion by their neighbors. In consequence of this characteristic, in organization and equipment of their troops, and in their system of attack and defense, and their method of reducing fortified places, the Assyrians manifested a superiority to the nations by which they were surrounded. Dr. Herman Hullen, historian and author of Compendium of World History, wrote, "Ancient Assyria was the greatest war-making power in all history." James Hastings wrote, The Assyrians of historic times were more robust, warlike, fierce than the mild industrial Babylonians. This must have been due to the influence of climate and incessant warfare, but it may indicate a different race. The whole organization of the state was essentially military. Leonard Cottrell, an Anvil of Civilization, wrote, In all the annals of human conquest, it is difficult to find any people more dedicated to bloodshed and slaughter than the Assyrians. Their ferocity and cruelty have few parallels save in modern times. It's interesting that Cottrell can only compare their ferocity with those in modern times. In the 20th century, many would admit that the Germans have indeed been dedicated to much bloodshed. After 800 BC, Assyria was poised and ready to take the world by storm. Their resurgence would soon clash head-on with the powerful Israelites. In his compendium, Dr. Hoth wrote, In 745, a new dynasty sat upon the Assyrian throne in Nineveh. It commenced with Tiglath-Pileser III. This dynasty existed to the collapse of Assyria in 612. Excuse me, guys. Getting a little cold today. Hold on, guys. Sorry. The Encyclopedia Britannica concurs with Dr. Ho's synopsis. Under Tiglath-Pileser III arose the Second Assyrian Empire, which differed from the first in its greater consolidation. For the first time in history, the idea of centralization was introduced into politics. The Assyrian forces became a standing army, which by successive improvements and careful discipline was molded into an irresistible fighting machine. And Assyrian policy was directed toward the definite object of reducing the whole civilized world into a single empire, and thereby throwing its trade and wealth into Assyrian hands. 11th edition of Babylonian Assyria. By now you should be noticing some definite similarities between ancient Assyria and the modern-day Germany, which has thrust this world into two great world wars, endeavoring to create one single empire. More on that later. Israel taken into Assyrian captivity. Let us continue with Assyria's documented history within the Upper Mesopotamian region. In 2 Kings 16, you will read of a war between Israel and the Jews. By that time, the children of Israel has divided into two nations, the northern 10 tribes keeping the name Israel, the southern tribes taking on the name Judah. Israel was allied with Aram, Syria, back then, or today, or whatever. Judah solicited the help of Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, 2 Kings 16:7. In defense of the Jews, the Assyrians attacked Aram first and Israel later. In his 14th year of rule, Shalmaneser III, Assyrian king of Calah, besieged the land of Samaria, where the 10 tribes of Israel resided. In the year 721 BC, notice 2 Kings 17:5-6. Then the king of Assyria came up throughout the land and went up to Samaria and besieged it 3 years. In the 9th year of Hoshea, the king of Assyria took Samaria and carried Israel away into Assyria and placed them in Halah to harbor, by the river of Gozan and in the cities of the Medes. Okay, let's see. Despite numerous warnings, their prophets, the people of Israel, refused to turn from their rebellion against God. It was God who sent the Assyrians as the rod of his anger to take the Israelites into captivity. Pause for a second, guys. Notice what this says. God who sent the Assyrians as the rod of his anger. So he uses these Germans or Assyrians every time Israel gets out of line. He's been using them to discipline them. And that's strange. Anyway, continue. It was God who sent the Assyrians as the rod of his anger to take the Israelites into captivity. Isaiah 10:5. They were removed out of their land. For the children of Israel walked in all the sins of Jeroboam, which he did. They departed not from them, until the Lord removed Israel out of his sight, as he had said by all his servants the prophets. Now pause for a second. Now Jeroboam, when they split up the kingdoms, the northern kingdom went up north and southern kingdom kept the temple area and they had nowhere to go to church, the northern kingdoms. So they kind of made up their own little religion that was similar to what they were doing down south, and they'd carry on that and spread that, and that would be what we'd know. That would be the very beginning origins of beginning origins of what we would later know as Druidism. Okay, becoming a Druid. That was the early Druids people. Jeroboam, what they were doing and practicing, and it's labeled in the Bible. It's the same thing as with the Druid. It's the same thing as the Druids. Those were the Druids. Anyway, they departed from them until the Lord removed Israel out of his sight, as he had said by all his servants and the prophets. So was Israel carried away out of their own land to Assyria unto this day. Josephus records that Shalmaneser made an expedition against Samaria, besieged it 3 years, and took it by force, and quite demolished the government of the Israelites, and transplanted all the people into Media and Persia. Okay, let me turn the page real quick. try to fly through this if I can. Religious scholar and author Herbert W. Armstrong wrote in the United States and Britain in Prophecy, in the years 721-718 BC, the house of Israel was conquered, and its people were soon driven out of their land, out of their homes and cities, and carried captive to Assyria on the southern shores of the Caspian Sea, and then lost from view? At this point in Israel's history, they were completely lost from view, known as the Lost 10 Tribes of Israel. But do you know why they became lost from the world's view? Because scholars and historians also lost sight of the Assyrians. And during captivity, Israel went into Assyria, located anciently at the southern shores of the Black and Caspian Seas. A free booklet, The United States and Britain in Prophecy, tracks the northwestern migration of the children of Israel into Western Europe, the Scandinavian Peninsula, and the British Isles. Why this migration? Because the Assyrians took them in that direction when they migrated northwest into Central Europe. As both peoples moved into Europe, the Israelites did not remain as slaves of the Assyrians. Instead, they separated into the regions listed above, while the Assyrians mainly settled into Central Europe, where Germany and Austria are located today. Okay, I would have to stop there. We're going to be our last upload on this chapter. It's going to be this part, the Assyrian migration. It's going to be interesting, and then we'll be tracing Germany's roots, and then we'll be on chapter 3 and get ready to learn about what this Holy Roman Empire is. So, you guys, I'm going to stop there. And that was pretty good. Okay.